Okay, guys, let's see how this works. All right, so I am reporting from my classroom, and I know I have been promising over and over and over again to do a video. It takes time. Oh my gosh, you have no idea. So here we go. So from my classroom, while I have a small break, let's talk about Chapter 5, which is polynomial operations. And so in this particular chapter, and we're going to do a lot of practice today, is we need to know with these polynomials how to do adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing of the polynomials, okay? So one thing I want to say is, again, I have sent out teacher notes that are both on Learning Web and even on Sunday. Hopefully everybody received it. If you didn't, I'll send it again. But I also began to send out a couple of more teacher notes, and I'll just use this video to just do as much as I possibly can. And then we'll just talk about come on Wednesday what all is going to be on the test, so we're very clear, because this is one of the toughest tests for the course because there's a lot of material in it, okay? So let's start with, this is section 5.5, okay? I'm skipping over 5.4. You do not have to worry about scientific notation. So let's look at 5.5. This is where it begins to talk about polynomial operations. Zoom in a little bit more. All right, here we go. So let's talk about adding polynomials, okay? So keep in mind that a polynomial is a particular type of expression that has powers of 3 or greater, okay? So things like, you know, something to the 4th, to the 5th power, and so forth makes you a polynomial. So cubic is to the 3rd power, square is to the 2nd power, and then when you have above 3, that's polynomial, which means many. Poly means many. All right, so if I look at skill practice, page 281, it has 13, 8 squared b to the 3rd plus 2a squared b to the 3rd. So the one thing you're going to notice, forgive my handwriting, is that you notice that there's 2a square terms, okay, in both of these terms, and then you have the b cubed. So that means these two can be added and combined because they are completely identical. Their a base has 1 to the 2nd power, and the b base has it to the 3rd power. Okay, okay, I'm back. All right, so let's just add these two together, very straightforward. So the answer to this, of course, 13 plus 2, 15, a squared b to the 3rd. So you do not mess with your bases or exponents in any way. You're just combining the coefficients, because again, as long as they match, okay, then you can add those two together. All right, so let's try another one. Kind of jumping around. All right, so now let's look at number 3, skill practice. I don't think anybody needs me to care about numbers. So we have this 7q squared minus 2q plus 4. All right, so again, all of this that we're doing is addition. So I don't want you guys to make this part challenging in any way, because it's just adding and subtracting. So you just have to remember your rule of integers. Okay, guys? So if I look at this particular problem, you notice that we have these two terms have a q squared. So we're going to add those together. All right? So that would become 12 q squared. Now I'm going to combine these two that have one single q, right? So we have negative 2 plus 6. Remember, opposite signs, subtract, and keep the sign of the bigger number. So this is positive 4. And then we're going to sit back and do the constants or the numbers, right? So negative 9 plus 4 minus 5. Done. Again, you cannot combine these two because this one has 2 q's and this one has 1. All right? And of course, this guy has no q, so you just leave that just like it is. Okay? Let's try, this is number 6. Okay, so now I'm going to move into, and again, we'll try the skill practice 4. I'll leave that for class. Let's jump to the bottom where it talks about subtracting now. Or maybe I should do one more addition. Let me do one more, and then I'll go to subtraction. I'm going to go to the back of the section real quick. Okay, so for another one for addition, let's try this one. Give me a second. This is number 28 on page 286. So it says 4 c squared d to the 3rd plus Okay. There we go. Let's try this one and then I'll go to subtraction. All right, so as you can see, this guy is the only term that has a c and a d, but these two terms are identical. So this one has a c squared, this one has a c squared, and this one has a d to the third, and then this one has a d to the third, right? So we can combine these two. So 4 minus 10, negative 6. C squared, d to the third, and then you just drop down 3cd. Okay, very straightforward. Just combine like terms. And I'm going to put a little star. Combine identical or like terms. All right, done with that. All right, so now I'm going back into the section. Let's do subtracting. So for this one, I'm going to jump to example 6 on page 283. And I'm going to do the skill practice here, okay? All right, so for this one, it is open parentheses, let me come down, sorry, x squared plus 3x minus 2 negative. Okay, so every time you see that negative in front of a parentheses, okay, you want to make sure that you do the distributive property on this one, okay? So what we'll do first is let's drop down all the terms in the first parentheses. So we're just going to drop this down, the x squared plus 3x minus 2. But here is a negative 1, okay? So we have to multiply that negative 1 through to each individual term. So you'll see me draw these arrows. I promise you guys there's nothing much new here. Besides, of course, they may scare us with the fact that it's polynomials, okay? Sorry about this parentheses, shouldn't be there. So negative 1 times 4 is negative 4x squared. This right here, negative 1 times 6x is negative 6x. And negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. All right, so all that changed on these three terms is they all changed to negative, okay? Now we're going to combine like terms. So here's the x squared term. And here's another x squared term. So negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3x squared. 3x minus 6x is negative 3x. Remember your rule of integers. And then negative 2 minus 1, right? We could do a plus and then bump back. It's negative 3. And that's the final answer for that one. Sorry about this little error. Okay, so that's as simple as subtracting is. All right, let me do one more. This is skill practice number 9 at the bottom of page 283. I'm moving kind of quick here. Plus xy, 2x squared, minus, and then we have a negative 2y squared. Okay, let me run out of paper or off the edge. Hopefully we can squeeze this in. All right, sorry about that one. Okay, so that's the end of this problem right here. Okay, so for this one, as you can see, start with that negative 1. Just make sure that you tell your mind, okay, that you have to distribute this negative 1 to each individual term through the parentheses. So let's drop down these terms. There's nothing to do there. Negative 3y squared plus xy plus 2x squared. Okay, but here I'm going to put a negative 1. I'm going to draw my arrows to show that I'm multiplying. Okay. And so back here, I get negative 1 times negative 2y squared is positive 2y squared. And then negative 1 times negative 3xy is a positive 3xy. And then the last one, this changes to positive. So again, the negative 1 just changes the sign on all our terms. Hopefully I'm still on the screen. Good deal. Okay, so now just to be a little bit more safe, right? You could use shapes. So here's your y squared term. There's your other y squared term. So maybe we just put circles. That these guys are like terms. And then maybe for my xy terms, I'm going to use squares. Here and here. And then I'll use triangles. Again, don't forget the sign for my x squared terms. I know I cut that off, but okay. So I'm going to combine these two, which will give me negative y squared. I'm going to combine these two for a 4xy. And then for my triangles, they're both positive. Again, that's a plus right there. It came from right here. So this is going to be 10x squared. Done. That's it. You're just dealing with the coefficients and the numbers. Very straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to do maybe like 2 or 3 more and cut this video. Again, right now, this is just about adding and subtracting polynomials, okay? And I do believe that on the folder, there's already some material over adding and subtracting, okay? And then we'll get into multiplying and dividing. But first, let's do a couple more. Adding and subtraction, again, section 5.5. Okay, let me clear this paper off. Okay, so now I'm jumping to the back of page 286, and I'm going to do, some more subtraction, then I'll do addition. Let's look at this one. This is number 60 on page 287. So I have 6k squared plus 2kp plus p squared minus 3k squared minus 6kp plus 2p squared. Hopefully I got all the right terms. Yeah. Okay, so again, let's drop down everything in this front parentheses. K squared plus 2kp plus p squared. Now, right here is when we do our distributive property. So all the signs on those terms are going to change. So this becomes a negative 3k squared. This becomes a positive 6kp. And this is negative 2p squared. Good deal. And so one more time, I'm going to show it with shapes. Okay, so I'm going to do circles for my k squared terms right here. Also include the sign. Okay, so it just helps you to remember, integers. I'll do squares on the kp terms here. And then we could do triangles for the p squared terms. Okay, sorry, no, I didn't keep the 2 inside the triangle. All right, so if we do this term with this term, you get a positive 3k squared. Right here, you get an 8kp, so we're doing 6 plus 2. And then our last 2 terms, you have p squared minus 2p. This will be negative. Remember, negative 2 plus 1, opposite signs, subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So negative p squared. And that's it. Okay. So as you can see, when you look at majority of these problems, all they're doing is putting a negative in front of the back terms, which change the sign, and then you combine like terms. Now, if we want to be a little clever, let's look at number 68. Okay, real quick. I'm just going to do another subtraction and end it there. We don't run out of time. Let me do 62. So don't freak out that they're vertically stacked on each other. So like for this one, number 62, it says a minus 14b plus 7c. And then they vertically stack. They want you to subtract negative 3a minus 8b plus 2c. Okay? So it's the same concept. It's just not, it's vertically stacked instead of being horizontal. So let's distribute the negative 1 through the terms. So this negative 1, if we multiply by each term, it just changes the sign. So this will now become a positive 3a. This one becomes a positive 8a, because again, negative 1 times negative 8. But this one changes to being negative. Okay, so we're just going to ignore that now that we've distributed through. Draw a line here, and we're just going to add down, because we've changed the sign of all 3 terms in that parentheses. So this is a 4a positive. This one we subtract, so this is a negative 6b. And then this one right here, 7 minus 2 is 5c positive. Okay, so I hope this all makes sense about adding and subtracting. It's the same thing you've been doing with just combining things in equations. So if you guys have questions, just let me know when we see each other again on Wednesday. But this is concluding this video, section 5.5, over adding and subtracting polynomials. All right, see you guys later today. Bye-bye. Okay, so I just want to see as this time cranks through, because I'm adding something on the back end. If it's going to let me keep going. Yes, let me go past 15 minutes. Okay, what kind of teacher am I? if I didn't do fractions. So apologize that I'm adding a little bit more on the back end. So I made it look really simple, but I was dealing with whole numbers. So let me be very fair and let's do fractions for a moment. Bear with me. So again, what I want to do, let me just move everything back here. Okay, so I'm looking at let me do addition number 40. So for number 40, I have negative 7/5, and there's an r plus 1. And then I have a plus negative 3/5. Okay, so let me finish writing this problem. So this is, one more time, this is number 40 on page 286. So you have, this is in the first parentheses, and then in the second parentheses, we have 7/5 r plus 1. Okay, so I'm going to show one with adding and then one with subtraction with fractions. All right, so the first thing, right, we notice is this one has a negative 7/5 and this one is a positive 7/5. So these two are going to cancel out, right? So again, if they're the same number or coefficients in front of, these identical variables, right, it's going to be 0. So this term and this term is gone. All right, now this is the only term that has an r squared, and there's nobody else in here to combine with him. So we're just going to drop him down and leave him negative. So negative 3/5 r squared. So the only thing we can combine are these ones, so plus 2. Pretty simple, okay? So in this case, we don't have to freak out with the fractions because two things canceled out, and then that's what's left over. Now, for the next one, okay, so I'm going to do another one. All right, so now for this one is coming from, let's do number 37 on the same page. So this one is 2/5 a plus 1/4 b minus 5/6, close, plus, and then we have 3/5 a. Now this one's a good one because, all of the fractions that we need to combine, they have to have your a's or they have your b's. They have the same common denominator. And there was one more fraction I'm missing here, 7/6. So this one shouldn't freak you out too bad because, like I said, this one has a 5 in it, this one has a 5. They both are a terms. And so our LCDs or common denominators are matching. So it's going to be basic arithmetic. We don't have to do, changing to equivalent fractions and so forth. So let's combine our a terms. So if I have 2/5 plus 3/5, that's 5/5. Leave the denominator the same. And that's the same as 1, right, for the coefficient. So we could just write it as a instead of 1a. Okay? Now we're going to combine these two. And so I'm going to kind of break this down. Let's do 1/4 b minus 3/4 b, so we can see those together. And so again, for this one, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. You can change to a plus, bump it back. So it's going to stay with a 4. It's still a b term, but I'm doing 1 minus 3, which is negative 2, which this reduces, because again, all fractions have to be simplified and reduced. So this is negative 1/2 b. Okay, so we took care of the b terms. And the last thing to do here is the negative 5/6 minus 7/6. So I'm going to write this down here, side by side. Okay, and so again, if you want to change to a plus, bump back, you can do that. Sorry, it's so messy. So this right here becomes negative 12/6, which becomes negative 2. So putting all this together, the final answer, and you put it in alphabetical order. So we have a minus 1/2 b minus 2. Again, this is number 37. Okay, that takes care of that. Let me do two more very quickly that are our subtraction with fractions. Sorry about this, I'm moving paper. Okay, so let me do one that is subtraction. Let me find, okay, number 66. So for number 66, it has 3/8 p to the third and a negative 5/7 p squared minus 2/5 minus, there's that negative, and then we have 5/8. Sorry, I'm talking aloud. P to the third p squared. So I'm running out of paper. want to make sure I copy it down right. Semi-concentrating. Okay, so for this one, let me zoom out so I get all of it. There it is. Okay, so for this one, we're going to drop down everything that's in this parentheses, right? And then we're going to distribute the -1 through this back parentheses. So we have our 3/8 p to the third minus 5/7 p squared minus 2/5. And then again, these are just going to change the sign. So this becomes a negative 5/8 p to the third. And then we have a positive 2/7 p squared. And then we have a negative 7/5. Okay? Okay, so people keep coming in. Here we go. Try this one and one more, and that's it, because it's getting to be a lengthy video. So as you can see, we need to combine our p cubed terms. So if we, and again, I don't know if this helps, so let me just do that side by side thing. So this one, and then of course we have minus 5/8 p to the third. Again, another thing that helps a lot, do shapes. So we're going to circle the p to the third terms. Again, also include the sign. That helps. We're going to use another shape for our p squared terms. Include the sign. Whoops, I cut off the p squared. Sorry about that. And this one, let's do triangles. Like that. Okay, so putting them side by side helps a lot. So again, we're happy that the denominators are the same. So what we're going to do is just do 3 minus 5, which again, you can do your plus bump back, but this is negative 2/8 p to the third, but it reduces to negative 1/4, okay, because their common factor is 2, so we reduced it. Now let's look at our p squared terms. We'll put them side by side. Negative 5/7 p squared, but I have to add to it 2/7 p squared, so I'm subtracting, keeping the sign of the bigger number. So negative 3/7 p squared. And the last part is we have negative 2/5 minus 7/5. So negative 2/5 minus 7/5. And again, if you want to do the change plus, okay, or bump back, this is negative 9/5. So the final answer for this one is, again, put them in order of their powers, and constants always go last or in the back. So we get negative 1/4 p to the third, negative 3/7 p squared, and then that minus 9/5 in the back. And there it is. That's the final answer. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop it there because it's 23 minutes. But again, I'll do more in class. Please, 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 there are so many terms or so many skills, I'm sorry, let me fix that, that they're just not that bad, but you just have to practice them. And it's a lot of things to keep straight, but it's very straightforward. Okay? All right, so I'll see you guys in class.